The Carolina Hurricanes are coming off an ugly loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but just what is going wrong with this team right now? Find out in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Monday afternoon. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes and myself on Twitter at JaredEllis_96. Almost forgot to remind you about that, but I didn't. But as I said, the Carolina Hurricanes are coming off an ugly loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs yesterday, and it's coming off of a weird stretch. The Hurricanes, they've required a lot of extra hockey as of late. You go back to the Tampa Bay game from the other night. Back-to-back games and shootouts. You had the Flyers game in overtime, the Caps game in a shootout, the Bolts game in a shootout, and then you had the Sabres game as well. They didn't go to overtime, but they've kind of been a weird stretch as of late. And what I mean by that is they start off really good for the most part, and then they get to like the second period and it all falls apart. And that's really what happened last night last evening, I guess it would be. It wasn't like a night game, but 5:00, weird time. But yeah, getting back on track. The Carolina Hurricanes in the first period, and really just the first half of the game, the ice was really tilted in their favor, and then mistakes started piling up. That was something that Jordan Stahl mentioned in post game. That you make a mistake against a good team like Toronto, they're going to take advantage of it. And I'm just kind of wondering what is going wrong here with this team right now. And Frederik Andersen has really just not looked like himself this year. And it's something I kind of mentioned before a few games ago. And all of this, remember, we're still very early in the season. It is November 7th. We got a lot of hockey left and plenty of time for this stuff to work itself out, first and foremost. But with Freddie, I almost feel like he's in his own head. And because, the goalie position is very mentally taxing position, and I feel he's coming off that nasty knee injury, and he's getting back to the swing of things, and there's been times where he's looked like Freddie Andersen, but there's times like last night he's just out there struggling, and I feel like he's in his own head. And I feel like health wise, I feel like he's all there. It's not like his knees bothering him or anything like that. I think that Freddie's in his own head. And if you've been around the show a long time, you remember we've talked about that with Peter Mrazek. We've talked about that with James Reimer, and these other guys that they kind of seem to get in these mental funks. And I think that Freddie is in one of those right now. And I would much rather it being happen, at the end of October, beginning of November, dealing with this sort of stuff and getting it worked out right now, rather than, come playoff time or right before the playoffs. I'd rather be dealing with it now, first and foremost. But Yeah, in terms of what he needs to do to get out of that funk, I feel like he may need to sit for a couple games, and just kind of clear his head. I've seen folks, talking about like trades and stuff like that. No, absolutely not. You are psychotic if you are saying that. We do not need to trade Frederick Anderson or Auntie Ronson. That is not going to happen, first and foremost. But yeah, I feel like Freddie may need to just sit for a couple games. We got, the Hurricanes practicing today and tomorrow. They got Florida on Wednesday, Edmonton on Thursday. I feel that those should be Ronsa games, and just have Freddie sit, clear his head, get on his game. Really just work hard. At practice facility and wherever. Then down in Florida practicing, up in Edmonton practicing. Just really work hard on practicing and getting himself back, mentally sharp. I feel that's the big thing with Freddie right now. I don't feel it's a health thing. I feel it's a mental thing with him, and he's just not there mentally. He's in his own head. He's like, oh crap, he's panicking, and we've all been there, and stuff like that. We're obviously not NHL goalies or anything, but you know, I feel like that's where we're at with Freddie. I think he just needs a little bit of a break. Just kind of sit him for a little bit, let him get back sharp mentally. Then, whenever you have a quote unquote easy opponent coming up, let's look at the schedule and kind of, figure out when that would be. Obviously, not against Florida or Edmonton, in my opinion. And then, then you're in Colorado on Saturday as well. You look at, next Monday against Chicago, maybe, that's a game, where you could, throw Freddie Anderson out there. Chicago, they're 5-5-2 at the moment. And, they're still, obviously in the middle of, their rebuild. They're not the best team in the NHL, but they're also not, a heavyweight team like Florida, Edmonton, or Colorado. And maybe you do put them out there, in one of these games. I do feel that would be a great confidence builder. Like, go out there, even if they don't win, he goes out there and has himself, a heck of a game. That in itself could be a confidence builder, and they just need to really work at building Freddie's confidence back. I think that's going to be big right now, but that's also not the only thing going on with this team right now in terms of what's going wrong. And we'll talk more about some other things I feel that the Hurricanes really need to work on and get in line now before we get too deep into the season. And we'll get into that right after this. All right, folks. The Carolina Hurricanes, they got another set of back-to-backs coming up against Florida and Edmonton. If you're wanting to place bets on those games, go to betonline.net. Betonline.net is your number one source for all of your betting on football, basketball, hockey, whatever. BetOnline is the place to go to find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including the NBA, the NFL, college football, MMA, boxing, golf, whatever. BetOnline has you covered. I'm really looking forward to WWE Survivor Series. They're bringing back War Games for this. I'm super hyped for that. So head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, folks, getting back to the Hurricanes and what they need to do to get the ship right. Now, first off, I know, we're being kind of negative here. The world is not burning down for this team right now. It is absolutely not. Again, it is November 7th. It is not May 18th. We got a lot of time left, in the season. So, first and foremost, that. That's the big thing. Yeah, the world is not burning down. I want to make that very clear, because I know Hurricanes fans, they can be a bit over dramatic at times, like the Frederick Anderson trade stuff. So the world is not burning down, folks. This team will get it right. But other things that are going wrong. I touched on it already, and that is the team not playing the full 60 minutes. That was a issue we had for a bit last year, if you remember. The team showing up, for the first and second, but not the third, or vice versa, them not showing up at all for the first and second period, and then only showing up in like the back half of the second period and the third period. You're not going to win games like that. They've gotten lucky this season so far with pulling out games when they haven't played the full 60, but that's not sustainable. It is absolutely not sustainable, and they really need to get back to the point where they are playing the full 60 minutes, and they're not taking their foot off their gas, and that's going to be really big. And it's honestly, in my opinion, one of, if not the biggest thing that this team can do to get back on track for the season. Again, I'd rather them have these issues now in November than in March or April, in heading into the playoff stretch. But this team, they got to play the full 60, plain and simple. That's as easy as I can put it. If they can do that, they can really stand a chance to getting things going. One positive that we have seen as of late is the power play having a little bit of life. Not great, but Stefan Nazin, he's again, still being quietly really good for this team. He had the Hurricanes' lone goal last night, and it was a power play goal. And it's one thing that's slowly coming together, and for the Hurricanes power play, and Nazin, showing his worth of why he needs to be on this team, which is great. That is one of the positives that we have from last game is Stefan Nazin, looking really good, and the power play, going 1 for 2 on the power play. I think it's a step in the right direction there, with how poorly the power play have been this season so far. That's good. And another positive from last game, while we're talking about positive, the reverse retros looked better on ice than in the pictures and whatnot. I'm still not a massive fan of them, but they looked better on ice. But I feel that would be a big thing for the Hurricanes. Is just playing the full 60, and then when it comes to playing that full 60, cut down on your mistakes and penalties. And penalties haven't been god awful this season so far, but it's the little mistakes, these defensive lapses, not it's something I've talked about in the past. They're taking so many shots, but it feels like they're just shooting to shoot and not shooting to score. That's really stuff that needs to get worked on, because you look at this game against Toronto. The Hurricanes gave Toronto an opportunity. Toronto took advantage of it. Toronto got all the momentum. Toronto was on a third string goalie. They'd call a guy up. And, the Hurricanes, weren't able to take advantage of that, given, you get hot at the right time. You get hot at the right time. It doesn't matter, if you're, a Vezina winner or, coming up from the AHL. If you get hot at the right time, you get hot at the right time. We saw it last year with Piotr, getting hot at the right time. And so I do take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Toronto did have a lot of momentum, and they're really rallying. So, I do look at that with, what they had in goal, but, offense as well, just drying up. And you were going against, a, third string goalie, and you weren't able to get the job done. Given Toronto does have like a lot of good skaters out there, so you got your work cut out for you, of course. But I feel that you could have been better about getting the puck in the hands of your elite shooters like Svetch, Aho, Natchez, Jarvis. Heck, Tavo as well. He's the other guy. Just this season, just in my opinion, just hasn't been the best he can be. Very much like Freddie Anderson, just hasn't been as good as we know he can be. But I feel this is all stuff that will come with time. At the end of November, I'm hoping that we're past this. Freddie is back on his game mentally and looking like the Frederick Anderson, we know he is. And, the Hurricanes power play is continuing to take steps in the right direction. We're seeing them go cut down on little mistakes and whatnot that have led to other teams getting opportunities. I do feel part of the problem with that is there just being so many new guys and these guys just learning how to play together. I feel that's something that the Hurricanes uh, are really working on, just figuring out how to play with each other. And it's not always going to go like it did last year of they get off to this amazing start and whatnot with all these new guys. Not always going to happen. You had a lot of turnover, and I feel they're just learning to play with each other. But one other thing that I feel the Hurricanes really need to work on, and we'll talk more about that in a second, is something that Jordan Stahl has mentioned before, and that is too many passengers on this team right now. And we'll talk more about that right after this. All right, folks, now we're back, and time to talk about the last thing that I think this team really needs to work on, to get the ship right. And that is something that Jordan Stahl has talked about in the past, after the games, and as too many passengers on this team. And what he meant by that was it's only a couple guys carrying the load out there, and we need other guys stepping up. And after his initial comment on that, his line goes out and has a heck of a game. And Stahl's 1100th NHL game, he goes out there and scores his first goal of the year. And that's the kind of things we need to be seeing. Is yes, you're in a game like last night. When you're down, you probably want to get the puck in the hands of Sebastian Aho or Seth Jarvis, Marty Natchez. You want to get it in the hands of those guys, but you look at Stefan Nazin. Yeah, he's a guy that I'm really impressed with as of late. I think he's doing really good stuff. He's stepping up to the plate and, really doing what he can, to get this team going. And that's what we need from all the guys. We just need guys to step the heck up and get the job done. And I don't care who it is, honestly. It could be Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechkov. It could be Paul Stastny. It could be Stefan Nazin. It could be Jordan Martinook. It could be I was about to say Ethan Bear, but he got traded. It could be Andre Kasha when he comes back. It could be any number of guys. It could be Calvin DeHaan, Jalen Chatfield. I literally do not care who it is on this team stepping up to get the job done, to try to get momentum going on the ice. Because again, going back to the team not playing the full 60 minutes, it just kind of sucks the momentum, out that they had building, and gives it over to the other team. And I don't care who it is trying to get things going for the team. Somebody needs to step up in these moments. Again, whether it's a top guy, whether it's a depth guy, forward, defenseman, I do not care. Just we need guys really stepping up and trying to get momentum back for this team whenever they falter. In the second period, it's been a trend as of late. So, I'm talking about like it's going to happen in this next game against Florida, because to be quite frank, I'm expecting it to happen. I'm expecting them to start out looking good, and then halfway-ish through the second period, they make a mistake and give Florida opportunities. That's what I'm expecting from this team right now. Hopefully, that isn't the case. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I really want this loss against the Maple Leafs to be a turning point for the team early in the season to getting things right and getting things going the way they should be. That's what I'm wanting. But again, just the past few games, it has been nothing but good starts, mistakes in the middle, other team gets the momentum, and you're fighting your butt off in the third. And we've went to extra hockey a few times. We come out in the winning end, and you look at the other night, or last night, excuse me, came out on the losing end. And I really hope this game against the Leafs was a wake up call for him. But we'll just have to wait and see. Come Wednesday against the Panthers, and see what they plan on doing. They're practicing today. I actually think they may have just wrapped practice within the past few minutes, but I'm not 100% sure there. But they're practicing today. They're practicing tomorrow. I'm hoping that, they're able to work with Freddie, as far as, getting him mentally sharp again. And, working with, these guys that are struggling offensively, to get things going the way it needs to be. Again, good positive. Power play is having a little bit of life, which is good. Trying to end on a positive note. Power play is having a little bit of life, folks. Something that's been a big issue for a long time, and the power play did something last night. And the penalty kill did good as well. They didn't allow any power play goals, so that's great. But ultimately, this is just stuff we got to let just play out for however long it's going to take. Whether this was the turning point and they get it turned around against Florida and Edmonton, or if we got to suffer for some more through those games in Colorado and Chicago and all that. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, folks. And in the meantime, you can always find out what's going on with the Hurricanes here on Locked On Hurricanes. And make sure you're following the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes, and myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. And in the next episode, I will be once again talking with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack as we talk about the upcoming renovations to PNC Arena, because Wolfpack are the Hurricanes roommates. And we'll be talking all about that in the next episode of Locked On Hurricanes. And I'll talk to you guys then. Let's go, Canes.